Just setting up the live stream, won't be long. Okay, so this one completely surprised me. So I've not been in the simulator for the last 48 hours, and I logged in at lunchtime to have a look and see what was going on online. And there was a new aeroplane. So this is the latest famous flyer in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm just adjusting volumes here, so bear with me for a moment. I can't actually hear my own voice through the microphone, so I'm just going to go and fix that. I have to come in here. Bear with me. I'm a little bit unprepared this evening. Okay, why is that not working? Launch the hub. Here we go. I need to be able to hear my own voice, otherwise it will be a nightmare. Turn that up. There we go. So I can now hear my own voice. That's better. Okay, that's much better. Okay. Sim sound is pulsing. Interesting. I wonder if that's to do with the latency. Bear with me. So has that cut the sound off from the sim that was pulsing? Just listening in the live stream there. Because obviously I can't hear it myself. Let me... Okay, I should be able to hear myself speak now. Sorry, I'm just monitoring it myself. How strange. Okay, so that's cut it out completely, but that would mean this needs to go to what's coming out of my speakers then, doesn't it? Or out of my headset, I should say. How strange. So this is sending sound out. Oh, okay, I know what's wrong. It's the Xbox controller. I'm setting a new machine up and I'd completely forgotten the Xbox controller can cause havoc. Yeah, so we'll be fine, don't worry. So in the properties in here, I put this back on default now. That's better. Okay. Half the reason for this is I have a brand new PC sat here. This is the first time I've streamed with it, so I apologise for the technical issues there. So this is the first time this has been streamed. Okay, so this is the 707. Should we give ourselves a sunny day instead of this horrible weather? Just for this first look. So we are at JFK. And this is the 707 that has just come out. So as you can see, even with a monster PC, JFK still absolutely murders it. But we're going to go and have a look around it on the ground. God knows how many aeroplanes are here. I'm actually surprised at how poor the graphics is being. I guess if I turn off other traffic just for our purposes while we're looking at this, that might help it a bit. Yeah, look, it's suddenly gone to like 60 frames a second because it's not trying to draw. There's probably a fly-in happening here or something. So someone's mentioning DLSS and frame gen. There's no real point. Yeah, I'd have to do it in the driver, wouldn't I? It must be done in the Windows settings. I don't think I can do it while Flight Sim's running. Systems, display, graphics. So settings and display. Oh, it's in here, isn't it? And graphics. Change the graphics settings. So I'm not going to do that now because we're supposed to be looking at this aeroplane. I'll have a look at it later on. Anyway, this is the 707. I should have taken it to a much less busy airport, really, shouldn't I? So we've got airplanes everywhere here. That really is stuttering badly. Like horrendously badly. I wonder what's going on that's causing it. As soon as we get in the air, it'll be fine. So you can see it's been created to a price point. If you look at the quality of the structures, they are not to the level you might expect normally with the big airliners. So it's certainly no PMDG plane, but it's perfectly serviceable. But then what are you going to expect? It's a very low cost aeroplane. It's surprisingly high fidelity inside though. So let's go and jump inside and forget about the drone camera for the moment. Yeah, something really odd is going on here. This was not stuttering like this earlier. I think the sim's just having a bad day. So let's go and run through the checklist. I've written up a checklist. Okay, let's go and have a look at what someone else is saying. I can't see any reason why we would need to change to DLSS though. Yeah, it hasn't really made a huge difference to it. We'll leave it on that at the moment. But anyway, once we get away from JFK, it will smooth out. And by the way, this PC, this just goes to show, this is sometimes the sim just has a bad day. This is now an NVIDIA 4090 with 24 gig of RAM. The machine's got 64 gig of the fastest RAM you can get. It's got a very fast i9 CPU and an extremely fast motherboard. So there's absolutely no reason for it to be, as slow as it's looking. And then we've got the Xbox controller drifting, look. So that still doesn't solve any of the age-old problems. Anyway, Let's go and get this thing up and running. So Control 6 goes overhead. We go and put the battery to on. And we rotate the amps and the volts to bat, which shows us that we've got about 24 volts, which is what we're looking for. And then we go down to the right-hand side of the engineer station and we go and start the APU. And we sit and wait for this to start. So if I go back to the pilot seat for a moment and look around, you can, yeah, the sim needs a restart, doesn't it? Or the entire machine probably needs a restart. It's been running all day. Anyway, we'll run through the startup and I'll show you how the aeroplane works anyway, and I'll maybe do another stream later of a proper flight. So we can see if we can put the generator on there as we come through 90% on the RPM and open the bleed air valve for the APU. And then go overhead in the engineer station. We put essential power to the external or APU. And then change the selector to APU gen, and you'll see what it's generating. So then we go back down to the lower station and we go and put the boost pumps on across the board. We haven't got any fuel. Oh, we have got fuel in the center tank, so we'll go and do that, yes. And then we go to the upper section again, and we're looking for the air conditioning and pressurization section, which is up here, and we're going to lift the air conditioning bar just to get the cabin to start to condition itself. Then the engineer station lower down again, we're going to go and turn on the hydraulic systems down here. Then go overhead with the pilots, go and turn the flight recorder on. And now here's the fun bit. This is a real, I think they've really dropped the ball here with the development of the aeroplane. You can uncage the anti-skid, you can't actually get to the switch. And no matter where you move your view around it, you can't get to it. You can get to the emergency exit. So I'll do this slightly out of step to show you. The only way to get to this is to come at it from an angle. And then you can get to the switch to arm it. If you stand right in front of it, you can't get to it. There's a few little bits and pieces like that in the aeroplane that I'm not super impressed about, but anyway, we won't worry too much. Like I said, it's such a cheap aeroplane. It's difficult to complain. So we've done the emergency exit lights. So then we do the no smoking and the seatbelt signs, and then the INS mode selector, which is here, which isn't labelled as INS mode selector. It has to go to align. And there's no way of knowing if it is aligned or not. Nothing lights up. I've sat here and waited and watched it for ages. So you just get on with other things before you switch it to nav, and it seems to like it. So yaw damper. Let's go back to the... Which view are we on there? 6, was it? No. 5, control 5, sorry. So your damper is in the middle at the bottom. We're going to turn that on. And then window heat, which is over here, we're going to go and put them to low because by default they're on high and they really shouldn't be. They should have been off. There's several points in the procedures, in the checklists here and in the paper version, which are either in different orders, are mislabeled, or don't match the state of the aeroplane at all. Okay, so window heats we've put to low, we've done that. So then we come back into the cockpit and we can calibrate the altimeter and calibrate directional gyros if there are any. The radios are down here, so we can go and set them if you're going straight out to a VOR station, for example. We can set the transponder. It's in front of the throttles over on the co-pilot side, so we can go and turn it on. You see it does have, it's kind of a digital system. It does go through a step setup and then shows you a number. And we can program a flight into the GPS, which is a GNS 530 basically with a new suit of clothes and called an MSNS. 5:30. So we'll just wait for that to boot up, and then we'll put some details in. So while we're waiting for that to boot up, we can have a look back down here. So we've got Flight Director is here. So we can go and turn the flight directors on, and we can say we're going to be operating in nav mode to use the GPS. And then you've got the autopilot above it, so we can get bits and pieces of that ready. And we can again say we're going to be using nav mode on the autopilot. So you haven't got pitch control in terms of, you know, targeting a climb rate or descent rate. So it's a bit before that ever happened in aeroplanes. So you just use pitch control, you know, while the autopilot is on, and keep an eye on the vertical speed. And obviously throttles, there's no auto throttle in this. That would be expecting wonders, but there is an altitude pre-selector. So we could climb out, for example, to, you know, whatever altitude we want to get to. So there we go, GPS has just woken up. So we'll go and put something in. So let's say today we're gonna go at, fly out to say 25,000 feet or something. Okay. And then we'll go into flight plan and we'll start programming it in. This is being very odd. Oh, of course, that's the DLSS that's making everything blurry, isn't it? I'm going to turn it back off. I'd rather have it being sharp than blurry. Yeah, it's much sharper now. Okay, so we are at JFK. And where are we going to go? Let's have a quick look. I penciled in a flight plan into LittleNavMap here. So we can go into Boston, for example. So that's KBOS, isn't it? So let's go and put that in as our destination. Oh, we'll put the waypoints in, the mid-route ones, because that will help. DPK is Deer Park. So DPK. Enter, and then we're going to go to Bridgeport, BDR. So I just made a route up that's not too long, so we get to play with the aeroplane along the way. Here's Dupre. Now, we wanted Bridgeport, didn't we? North Central USA, so enter. And then Chester is CTR. Press enter, and again Northeast USA. So that's all looking good. I'm just looking at this distance. Has that got the wrong DPK? No, that's correct, but that's not 1,200 miles away. We want Chester, didn't we? Oh my word, so is this not using Navigraph? Okay, that's another nail in its coffin then. We're not going to be having the midpoint waypoints. Delete. That should have been Chester, and I think it got that one wrong as well, didn't it? So let me go and clear that. I'll clear all of them. We're not going to have any midpoint if we can't trust it. That's a bit of a shame, isn't it, when things like this happen? So we're going from KJFK to just to KBOS. But then you're seeing it go wrong for me, so you'll know what to expect when you try it. Just out of interest, if we go and run the Navigraph hub, does it see it as a different airplane? No, it doesn't. So it's not listed separately. What about if we ran... Oh no, it wouldn't appear in the old Navigraph program, would it? Okay, so if we go to menu and we'll select a departure from JFK and we'll go JFK 5 from runway, is it 13 left? Let's just double check. I think it's, we're looking at leaving 13 right, 13 right. There we go. Enter. Enter. And then if we go menu and what were we planning on doing on the way into Boston? So Gardner transition into so there isn't a star. It's just an approach, the Maldi approach into runway 15 right. So let's go and do the approach. Enter. 15 right. And it was GDM. And that's correct. Enter. Press enter. And select arrival, enter. Yeah, we don't need one of those, do we? Cool. So has that still got our route? So if we zoom out, has it just broken itself? Perhaps it wants a waypoint in the middle of it after all. Okay, let's invent something else then. We'll go to CCC because I know that exists in the aeroplane. We'll remove DPK. So we're going to go via CCC, okay? So we'll come down here and we'll, if I can get it to do it, go to CCC, Culverton, enter. There we go, it's working. Right, we have a flight plan. A very basic one, because we saw that it was picking up the wrong waypoints all over the place. So we can now go over to the engineering section. We can go and turn on the galley power. We can then go overhead the cockpit and we go and put the INS selector to nav now. And again, there's no feedback on if anything has aligned. And then come back down into the cockpit, and there's a switch here that if we open it, the doors open. Or if we lift it, sorry, the doors open. If we drop it, the doors close. If you've got the cargo version, a big truck appears with a load of stuff on it, you know, with a container. And yeah, some of the liveries are the cargo version. So exterior lighting, we're going to go and put the beacon light to on. If we go and look outside, you'll see the beacon light is flashing away over there. And then go back over to the engineering station, and the air conditioning bar can go back off because we're about to use the air to start the engines. So we don't need to push back where we're sat at the moment, so we don't need to do pushback at all. So to start the engines, we use the switches up here. I'll uncover all of them. And actually, I'll do this from the pilot position. Whoops. I didn't command that. This just changed views on its own. Anyway, so we can start engine number 1 with a ground start. And we look down here, and you'll see the N2 is coming up. When it gets to about 20%, we can introduce fuel. It doesn't seem to be simulated that accurately. We can introduce fuel early, it doesn't harm anything. Or we can introduce fuel late, and it doesn't harm anything with it sat spinning the engine forevermore. So, introduce fuel, and you'll see the needle carries on round, and noises start to happen. So when it gets to about 35% or so, the switch has already gone back off, so the starter has done its job. So once you've done that, you can advance the fuel condition lever further. And having done that, you can go over to the engineer section and you can turn on the bleed air for that engine. Okay, and then what's next? I'm just going to get the order of these right because I know people are funny about this. So it should be engine number 3 next. So back overhead, we're going to start engine number 3. So it's 1, 3, 2, 4. So you can see N2 is climbing on engine number 3. And we'll go just to prove the point and advance the fuel lever before it gets to 20%. Oh, it's just getting there anyway. But then you'll see the temperature rising and N1 will start to creep up. Should go and look outside, have a listen. Okay, so that is finished, so we can advance number 3 further. Then we can go over to the engineer section again and switch on the bleed air for engine number 3. And then back in the pilot seat, we can go and start number 2. So ground start on number 2. Keep an eye on the percent for N2. Okay, so fuel can come on engine number 2. So yeah, I was surprised that when I saw the developer of this aeroplane, Aeroplane Heaven, have done warbirds in the past. So I've never known them, certainly in my time looking at flight sim, never known them do a tube liner, as people call them. So engine number 2 has finished starting, so we can now advance that lever, jump over to engineering and turn on the bleed air for engine number 2. And then back in the pilot seat we can go and start engine number 4. And we'll go and recage some of these while we're at it. Or recover. So engine number 4 is starting. So we can again monitor the numbers. I did try flicking all the switches at once, and it's quite happy doing it. Like I said, it's not the most accurately simulated thing in the world. So the switch should come up at any moment. There it goes. So we can sort that out, come down here, advance, go back to engineering, and turn the bleed air on for that engine. So that's the engines started up. So then we can go to the auxiliary power unit, obviously, and turn it off. And turn off the bleed air and the generators. And we can go to essential power. We should have done this first, really. I've done this out of order because we just turned off the APU while it was still powering the aeroplane. Just shows you that you can get away with murder with it. So I'm just going to fix that on my list here. So bear with me a second. I'm editing my procedure document as we work through this, which is good fun. Okay. So Control 6 then takes us back over here. And we go to the air compressors at the top right, and we want to start each of them. There's 3 of them. And they will show warnings for low oil pressure, and it will slowly go out as they come up to speed. So you can see the numbers coming up, and then, yeah, as soon as they get up and running, the oil pressure warning lights go away. So I think in and of itself, this is actually quite good. It's just... a lot of it's for show, I think. But then simulators are, aren't they? So it's a bit false to say, you know, it's all for show, because that's what a simulator is. Okay, cabin pressurization. So if you know you're going to be flying at high altitude, then you can go and pre-arm the cabin pressurization system for the pressurization for the cabin. So how many thousand feet you want the cabin to be pressurized to. So there's obviously book numbers for that, for what you should set it to. For our little test today, we're not going to bother with it. So, but we are going to go over to the lower section, and we're going to go and turn on. Now, this wasn't in the documentation. They switch on these 2 hydraulic pumps over here. They don't turn on these 2, which is a bit odd. It's not nowhere in any of the procedures. So I was looking around and spotted them, and I thought, why aren't they on? So I put them on. So overhead in the cockpit, we're going to go to the exterior lighting and put the taxi lights on, and we're essentially ready to taxi. So I would take no notice of the frames at this moment. I've run the simulator maybe 4 times throughout the day without a reboot, and it's on its knees. So Flight Sim is doing its best to launch Windows. But it's not too bad. So if we go and come off the parking brake, we'll put the flaps to takeoff position, and we'll start moving. There's a small amount of positive thrust when you are moving, so we need to go left and then right to go out to the runway. So we put the head tracking on. So yeah, later this evening, after we've done this little test with the 707, I'll reboot. I'll do another live stream later with the normal aeroplane, just to test this hardware out, because I've not really used it. So obviously, yeah, the machine arrived this morning. It's been, or sorry, yesterday morning, and it's been. Well, I think I've just clipped wings on the post. Okay, so they've got structures here. This is cool. So they've got structures here that you can hear. Okay, let's do this from outside then, with a guided taxi around the post. Oh my word. So JFK has got ground structures that are solid. I've never seen that in Flight Sim before. I'm just going to skip us past that. Okay, this could have been affecting our frame rate, you know. 3,000 containers thrown in heaps all over the corner of the airfield. So we'll go out to the far taxiway. So the nose steering doesn't track with the aeroplane either, look, which is really odd. The internal sounds are really odd. So I'm deliberately not passing judgment in if I think they are good or not. So while we're taxiing along, we'll go overhead and we'll go to the window heats and put them on high. We'll go and turn on the pitot heats as well, and the first officer one there. So where are we in terms of the taxi? We've done the flaps. We haven't done the stab trim. I'll do that next. So we'll just come to slow ourselves down a little bit. So down here, there you've got the stab trim. So I'm going to move it into the green area. Again, we don't have a calculator like the 737 has got. So let's go and get out onto that runway. Oh, we've got an F-18 waiting to go. Is he going? While we're waiting for him to go, let's go and have a look. 134 degrees. So what we'll do is go and set the heading bug. The HSI, because we're on nav mode, obviously won't. The course won't do anything. So we want 134 degrees for the heading bug as well. So what I might do for takeoff is put it on heading mode, just for safety's sake, on both the flight director and we'll switch over to nav mode after takeoff. Okay, doesn't look like he's going anywhere. It's really odd, isn't it? Because some of these textures and some of the modelling is great around here, and then you turn a bit further round and there's a square chunk of angle iron. That might be accurate, of course. Okay, so now we're on the runway. We'll get the lights on, strobes on, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to go full throttle. I'm not going to bring the airplane to a stop. At least stay on the centre line, hey. So we're looking for about 140 knots to begin the rotation. And gear up. And let's trim it so it doesn't dive for the floor. And gear up, flaps up, hold the trim, and autopilot on. So we are... Now look at that. Can't change the course, so it's immediately going for what would have been a left turn, but we'll do it. So obviously I didn't have the SID in it at all. So what we'll do is we'll bring ourselves around onto the course using heading mode. I kind of suspected that was going to happen. So we can control pitch. So we're climbing 3,000 feet a minute at the moment. Look, this is quite steep. And we've gone through 250 knots, so let's pull the throttle back. We were actually at 110% there on the throttle. It will let you do that. And it's actually in the procedure to go for max throttle. So just going to let some of that speed bleed back off as we climb out. And we'll come back towards the track, which you can see here if I put some more range on the... Yeah, look, it was straight out of the airport. It wanted an immediate left turn, and which we didn't want to do. So let's give ourselves a bit more of an intercept angle. So what I discovered earlier is the autopilot works, but it can't perform wonders. So coming up through 5,000 feet, it's 18,000, isn't it, transition altitude in the US. So we've got ages until we need to worry about that. So as we come back in towards the track, actually, can we put this on? Oh my word, they've removed rose mode. No, they can't. No, there it is. There we go. So as we come back into the track, yeah, let's go and turn the airplane left a little bit. When we're within the one dot, I think nav will pick up now. So we'll go nav on, sorry, that one. Yeah, the airplane's turning right, look, to grab the, obviously it's going to overshoot the CDI, but it's having a good go at it. So we're actually climbing too steep. It says in the book you're really aiming for 1,500 feet a minute for climb rate, so I'm just going to go and knock some off the climb rate, which will necessitate bringing the throttles back a little bit. We don't want to go above 250 knots until we're over 10,000 feet. So it's just watching the numbers. The radar is just a picture of a radar. It doesn't do anything. Like I've said this to several people this afternoon that I ended up talking to about early experiences with this at lunchtime. This plane's only about £10, isn't it? So you can't expect wonders for a £10 aeroplane. That it has so much in it for that price is amazing. But then you'll get people comparing it to the fly-by-wire, which was created by a team of enthusiasts over 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years now. Okay, so we're about 1,500 feet, which is apparently the target climb rate you should be looking for. We're just about to come up through 10,000 feet. So when we do, we're already at 29.92 because I turned the weather off, didn't I? So we don't need to bother about that. So we just turn the lights off. And we're good to go. So we're climbing out. Let's go and have a look at it outside then. Now we're in the air. It doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't look too good either. So you can see the corners have been cut, I think you would say. This looks an awful lot like a bitmap bump map, doesn't it? Which I thought a lot of the other aeroplanes had moved beyond or gone to very high resolution. But I've never been on a 707 or near one, so I can't comment on the sounds either. Which is I don't tend to judge too much. I just show you what I'm seeing, or you can see what I'm seeing. So we're up to through 10,000 feet now, so we can push on a bit with the throttles. So we'll go back out to 100% on the engines, or just below normally, isn't it? It's about 98. And you'll obviously, if we maintain 1500 feet, you'll see the airspeed start to creep up over the next few minutes. So it'll be interesting. This is the latest version of LittleNavMap, by the way. I don't know if anybody else has updated the last few days. So it's got this solid line now that tracks, you know, where you have flown, which it didn't have previously. It's interesting. This is nowhere near the GPS track. Oh, of course, our GPS track's different, isn't it? It's from there. So if we were to remove that SID, so if we go Window, Dock Windows, Flight Planning, and we remove that procedure, then it will probably be a lot closer, yeah. So it looks like it had about that much before the right turn, before the left turn, which is why we overshot immediately. It was looking for an immediate left turn. So the thing that will be fascinating to me is if this gets too far away from the track, it will drop it. It's not clever. It's really, this aeroplane was really designed to be flown VOR to VOR. And you'll notice over there, there's an INS, or is it a UNS-1? Inertial navigation system. It doesn't work. It's just a model of it. But the 727 that's available for Flight Sim has a working one of those in it, and it's great. But obviously, yeah, we've got this system that the real airplane wouldn't have had. And apparently not many airlines had these, because they were so expensive at the time, nobody bothered. Everybody just had, they used VOR navigation, and then they retrofitted 530s later on, and did away with the UNS inertial navigation systems. So if we zoom out, you'll see the next waypoint coming. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't make the corner. So we've set 25,000 feet. We'll keep an eye on that as we climb out. We set it as our target. So what it should do when we get to 25,000 feet is wind out the vertical speed automatically. And at that point, you can switch on altitude hold if you want, which is the switch on the far side. So you can hear a marker beeping away. So let's go and, just for a bit of fun, go and tune in 11720, I guess. We could do some VOR navigation along the way, couldn't we? So we'll ignore that track, the GPS track. Let's do VOR navigation instead. So if we go heading mode, and we want to be flying, what is it, 8 degrees. So we're going to go and change this heading to 8 degrees. Which seems wrong, but we'll see. So what we're going to do, instead of using the navigation system, is we'll go... can we do this on the HSI and just use a VOR? What will it show? Can we change the course now? Nope. That's interesting. Do we have to put the autopilot on? We want it on heading mode though. Oh, we'd have to do it here, wouldn't we? There we go. So this has got this really weird mashup of controls, hasn't it? So we can use the controls now. So if we go and tune in, and I bet Nav1 is the one in the GNS. So we want 115.1. It's going to be this one, isn't it? It'd be interesting to see if this synchronizes with the one further down the cockpit. So yeah, there we go. Look, it's picked up the signal. So can we switch the autopilot now into VOR lock? It is banking around ever so gently. I'm just watching the needle disparity here. You'd expect it to be turning left. Anyway, 115.1. Yeah, so that was synchronized with what we did in the GNS 530. I'm not so sure about this. No, it's not got a distance measuring. But then what's the range on this? Oh, maybe we haven't got it yet. So show... Come on, LittleNavMap, help me. Oh, it's only got a 40-mile range. That'd be why. We're 80 miles away from it. That's why it's not making sense. Though why has it got a CDI? Oh, it hasn't. It's just dead. That would make sense. Okay, that's good then. So we can test that as well. We'll put range rings on here for 40 miles. What are we doing? Sorry. Add range rings, 40 miles. I've got new installs of everything, so I'm a little bit at sea with everything at the moment. So 11720. So let's go back to heading mode on the autopilot for the moment. And we want 11720 instead of 115.1. So 11720. And has that changed this? Yes, it has. So do we then get the CDI moving around? No, we don't. I was expecting that to pick up as a from signal from 11720. Let me just check the frequency. 11720. We still haven't got this working. How strange. There's DME2 though. Let's try on NAV2. 11720. Do we have to... Oh, we have to turn the DME on, I see. And then we get them. What was the range on this one then? Right click, show information for the VOR for Calverton. 40 miles. So we should be able to pick that up. That's really odd. So this is obviously using NAV1, NAV2 DME, NAV1 DME here. So yeah, it's a struggle. Let's put it that way. It's not behaving as you think it should. Yeah, we can ignore the messages from the 530 because we've gone off-piste. It's frustrating, isn't it, when this sort of stuff happens? 11720. I wonder if there's any others that will pick up. Well, there's nothing we've done wrong, is there? If we go back to heading mode, just to ensure that we've got control of the aeroplane. So the GNS is in lock mode, which means the HSI is showing the result of the radio. So let's go back to, what was it, 11510. So if we switch over, we should be picking that up fairly soon. We're at 25,000 feet, by the way, while we've been messing around, so it did level out. It has behaved itself. So it zeroed out the climb rate automatically when we got to the target, the pre-selected altitude. I wonder if there's a radio power switch somewhere that I haven't got on that is causing it. Because I've seen that in other aeroplanes of this vintage where there's an obscure power switch. The electrical panel was... See, I've done the full checklist, so... Air conditioning, AC and DC power. This will show what each generator is making, and they all look good. Gen 1, Gen 1, generating. It makes no sense. But then maybe it is just broken. Yeah, we don't appear to have anything. We should be... any moment then. Oh, there we go, it's working. So maybe only... So why wouldn't the other one work? And the CDI is working as well. So we can go and switch on to nav mode now and see if it tracks. So we've got the flight director telling us, and the autopilot should be following. Oh, sorry, it should go to VOR lock, sorry, shouldn't it? Not nav. There we go. So it should chase the needle for us now, which it's doing. And we can hear the Morse as well. So do we get any control over the volume? Not sure that we do. That's frustrating that Nav2 didn't work. I wonder if it'll work on a different beacon. So what about this one? So show information for Gardner. 40-mile range again. Oh god, why are they all such short ranges? Add a range ring, 40 miles. Okay, there's a Vortec in here. We should be able to pick that up, shouldn't we? 11300. We'll do that on Nav2. And we have distance. So it was just that one beacon behind us that didn't work for some reason. Okay, we're following the radial in, which is good. The airplane's behaving. Whenever I see a 707, I expect Superman to fly up and hold up the engine that's been hit by lightning. Okay, so we've got 20 miles to run until we get to the VOR. 20 miles now. So I'm putting myself through the mill with a half-built aeroplane for the benefit of everybody. As I am my existence is a warning to others. I think that's a good way to put it. I've heard that somewhere and I can't remember where. It might have been a t-shirt or a poster or something. I think it's a despair.com poster. If you've never seen that, go and search for despair.com on the internet. It's brilliant. They make anti-motivational posters. So 15 miles to run to the waypoint. And then we will go to heading mode to make the turn, because I don't think it will make the turn in time, and it will lose the signal and fly off into the middle of nowhere. So what we're going to do is line up the heading bug, the direction we're actually going. So we'll switch the autopilot back to heading mode for the moment. You can, what am I trying to say here? You can put it on manual mode, and then you've got like gyropilot controls, where you can use this handle here to turn the aircraft. So we're on heading mode. We're running in towards the VOR, we're wanting to leave on a course of 82 degrees. Okay, so we're on heading mode, so we can do this. So we can say, give us 82. We're 7 miles out from the VOR now. So I'm not sure what the turn radius is on this thing. We'll change the heading bug when we are, say, 4 miles out. Because travelling along at 350 knots is going to have quite a big turning circle, isn't it? So we'll go for the turn now. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we're going to overshoot, aren't we? Quite hilariously. Because I didn't know what the turn rate was going to be. That's fine, we can just turn further than we need to. So we've gone over the top of the VOR now, picked up the signal again. There's no to and from marker, is there, on the HSI? That's a shame. Do we not get any old-fashioned nav instruments anywhere with an omni-bearing selector? Or apparently not. Oh, unless the engineer's got them. Does he have any backups? I'm not sure that he does, actually. No. So what we're doing is turning in and going towards the next one, which is 11060. But what we'll do, if we put ourselves just on an intercept course of not too big an intercept course, that's probably enough, isn't it? And then when this gets within 1 dot on the display, the CDI, we'll switch to nav. But we can also switch nav2 over to 11060 and see if we can see it. No. It's frustrating, isn't it? So here comes the CDI. Ah, but it was that because that was... Oh no, 40 miles for that is way out there. So why can't we see it? Doesn't inspire much confidence, does it, in the aeroplane? So we'll go to nav mode now, and we'll bring the heading bug round to match the course and let the aeroplane centre itself on the CDI. And should we start descending as well? So we'll tell the aeroplane to start coming down. Will it let us? Probably not, because it's holding this silly pre-selector altitude, I imagine. So it's fighting against us. So we'll come back down to 10,000 feet. Okay, so will it take any notice now of the... Yes, it will. Look, vertical speed will come off. So until we change the pre-selected altitude, it wouldn't leave it. So we're coming in towards... should we pull up the flight plan window so we can see the names of these things? Dock windows, flight planning, and we also want the information panel. If we make that a bit shorter, then we can see everything. So it's the Gardner VOR. It's bizarre that we can't pick it up. But it's not a massive... Well, I guess it is a massive problem. We'll have to go by eye on the on LittleNavMap. But it's here, look. We just can't... Amazing. Anyway, let's try the same frequency then. 110600. So we're on heading mode. Or we'll put it back on heading mode, yeah? So we're going the same direction we're going at the moment. And we want 11060 on Nav 1. I'll switch that to active. And we have no distance. And that's died, hasn't it? So we haven't got a direction either. So we are just going to have to use heading mode. I think this aeroplane's a little bit broken. So what sort of range have we got? We could play games, couldn't we? I've just set our course for whatever we want. So let's just draw this on here with a pencil. Measure distance from Gardner. So we'll just put an angle out 100 degrees then. Yeah? So we'll change our heading to 100. This needs to go on to heading mode to do it. And let's see if we can pick up this VOR. So show information for the Boston VOR, 250 mile range. We can pick that one up, or we should. 11270. So 11270 and switch over to it. And we've got it. So we can then set the course to the runway direction and come in on here. So it's going to be 149 degrees. Okay, so we're 42 miles out from it. We're at 20,000 feet. We're coming down about 1,000 feet a minute. Let's come down a bit more steeply. And let the speed fall off as well. So 3,000 feet a minute. It's a bit too steep, isn't it? 2,500 feet a minute. Now, we want 2,500 feet, don't we? So say 3,000 or 4,000, above 4,000 at Swig then, to follow the procedures. Let's turn right a little bit. So we're down to 18,000. We've got no weather, remember, so we don't need to worry about the barometric pressure. Let's see how fast this slows down. Does it have spoilers? Yes, it does. Do they work is the next question. Do they do anything much to the aeroplane? Okay, we're just getting the speed down to 250 knots using the spoilers as we descend at 4,000 feet a minute. Oh my word, we're falling out of the sky. We've got 30 miles to run to the VOR, which is over the airfield, so we can almost use that. Take a couple of miles off that and you've got the end of the runway. But we're going to change frequency to 11070 when we make the turn at Swig. So remember, we're on nav mode at the on heading mode at the moment because half the VORs aren't working for some unexplained reason. This aeroplane cannot see the full database from the simulator. I wondered earlier when I was looking through, when I went through the procedure, writing up a procedure for this aeroplane, a lot of the SIDS and stars were missing, and that's obviously the same reason. It can't see potentially the Navigraph data, which is really odd, unless it's got its own out-of-date database, which makes no sense, but there we go. So the speed has crept back up, hasn't it? We need to get down to 250 knots. Okay, I wonder if we go and change frequencies to ILS now, if we'll be too early. 11070. We could try it on Nav 2, couldn't we? Do we get a DME? We do, so we can change. Let's do it on this just to be safe. So what was it again? 11070. So we're going to switch over to... Yep, we got it. We've just picked up ILS. So does the course still work? Yes, it does. That's interesting. So the course is 149 degrees, which is correct. So we're letting the aeroplane come in. We're down below 10,000 feet now. So let's go and get the lights on. Didn't want to do that. This does not want to come out of this dive. Okay, I'm going to take over. I am in control now. It's a shame I can't find out where the buttons are for the audio volume. So we're 15 miles out at 5,000 feet. We want to be about 2,500 feet at 8 miles out, don't we? Here comes the CDI for the runway. What does the animation look like of the wheels then? That's pretty good. Got a little bit slow there while we were looking around outside. Let's get back to 160 knots. Or 150, something like that. So we're coming in towards... we're slightly off to the right. You can see the runway now. So we can focus on that and bring it in. So do we get a... Oh yes, there's a glide slope. Just noticed it on the side of the instrument there. So we've got everything we need. So let's just descend into the glide slope, which is very against normal procedures, but there you go. So just checking autopilot is off. Okay, so why is this saying we're wildly off now? Oh, is there two runways here? And we're on the wrong one. We're 9 miles out. Let me have a look at the map. No, we're going for the right runway. I just don't trust the instruments at all anymore. Maybe it's slightly offset. None of this adds up. So let's go press D. So that's not aligned with the ILS. This just gets weirder and weirder, doesn't it? 11270. Let's just double check that. So the ILS is 11070. That would explain it. So we may have to go round if I can't. Oh no, we are on 11070. But this is reading massively off. But it's not an offset ILS. Okay, so maybe this aeroplane has lots of things wrong with it. Maybe in its database, the airport wasn't here. It was somewhere else. So we'll just have to go visually and ignore the radio signal. We can almost see the PAPI lights now. The airplane's kind of trying to level itself out all the time. It wants to fly flat, or or level. We're still too high according to the PAPI lights. We've got one red. Two reds. A bit low apparently. Should we look at this from outside? Oh, we've missed the targets. Let's just put it down. I'm rubbish at steering aeroplanes from the outside. It's a strange looking aeroplane, isn't it? Compared to the modern ones. Okay. So I guess we go and taxi over to the buildings over there. We need to get the lights off on the way. Should we go and detune the radio to shut up the beeping? Okay, which one's doing it? That's better. At least it plays the Morse code, which is better than some of the other aeroplanes. Yeah, there was something odd going on at JFK, because look, the frame rate is back with a vengeance. Okay, this is only a stock airport, but look how smooth it is. So I'll have a play a bit later and go and I'll reboot the machine, go and check some settings, and go and have a look around New York with a helicopter or something to test the frame rate out. Yeah, the nose wheel isn't turning again. Look, it was turning earlier. So I think it might be a little bit broken. Let's see if it works correctly with the gates. So if we go in between here, let's see how it handles it. Like I said, it's hard to be too critical of this aeroplane because it only costs a very small amount compared to what you might term the study level aeroplanes. It's just surprising to see a Sobo putting one in as a famous flyer that's in this condition. Whether, I guess their eye is off the ball at the moment getting the new sim ready, but I don't know. Anyway, can we trigger the we want scroll lock, don't we, to get the buttons up. So ground services, Massport ground, jetway. Yes, it's going to work. Let's see how accurately it does it. Looks pretty good. So then inside the cockpit, there's this switch here for the door. So if we then go, oh, we can't walk round with that camera view. We'd have to go to drone view. So let's go, and we haven't looked inside yet actually. Let's go and do that. Yeah, this looks like an FSX aeroplane that's been upgraded, doesn't it? It's got that very low resolution look about it. Except bits of it are better than others. So let's just turn down the speed on the drone camera a moment. So let's go and get rid of the radio dialogue. And there's the gate. Have they modelled the toilet? No. Curiosity killed the cat. So, and there appears to be no way of getting from first class into standard class. Yeah, I think we've seen all we need to see about this aeroplane now. It's difficult to judge it because it is a much lower cost aeroplane. I'm just surprised that they've let this out in this condition, to be honest, that they didn't choose something else instead. Because it's significantly worse than the other famous flyers so far. I think if you take screenshots from nice angles, you can make anything look good. So if we go and look around with the drone camera in the cockpit, if we just slow it down a bit. Yeah, from the right angles, it's not too bad. And obviously we were putting it through the ringer a little bit, trying things out. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that today. Or should we just see how to shut the engines down? So I'm guessing we just, same as with the other Boeings, yeah, you just shut them down. We should have put APU back on or gone to external power. We haven't, but I'm not going to split hairs at this point. I think we've seen enough of the aeroplane. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and how do they say it? Buyer beware, maybe, with this one. But it's flyable. It's just really the major problem for me was that half the beacons didn't exist. So I ended up having to work around that and search for beacons that did exist to be able to fly the route. Anyway, good fun. I'll see you all again soon.